Greetings, YouTube. This is part 2 of my World of Tanks. I wouldn't say rant, as more of, I don't know, not disdain either, but I don't know. It's just issues, I would say, that the game has currently, as is. And apparently, from what I understand, has had for quite a while now. Anyway, in part 1, I mentioned how battles fought really dictates how well a player is going to do in a match. I mean, after all, it's experience with the game itself. But moving on, the last thing I mentioned in part 1 was what could wargaming do to want me or have newer players or casual players to keep going with the game. Because right now, I really don't see the need of me going past Tier 7. I have the Tiger P, which I'm going to get into that whole can of worms in a little bit. But what could they do to want a player to keep continuing to play their game? As addicting as it already is, but after a while, I think people kind of get fed up of just grinding and grinding and grinding. Now, I'm not trying to make this game sound like it's simple when I say what I'm about to say, but it's damn repetitive. It's technically almost the same thing over and over and over and over. Anyone who works a customer service job knows redundancy is hell, and it is. But instead of me complaining constantly about the game, how about I make a suggestion on how to fix the game? And it's simple, easy things that could be done to fix the game. Like, separate players by battles fought. You know, putting someone against someone who has 10,000 battles versus your 10, that's right, just 10, is unfair. So how about separate it? I'm not asking this gigantic amount of server usage, like, oh, people from 1 to 100 go here, and 100 to 200 there. No, obviously this could be a little broader than that, but not as broad as someone who has 80,000 battles versus someone who has 2. Separate it a little bit. The next thing I want to talk about is some of the tiers on the tanks themselves are just ridiculous. Example, as I mentioned earlier, I was going to mention the Tiger P. This is a prime example of when to mention it. In my Tiger P, my first 100 matches, literally, I kept track of how many matches I won and lost, and what tiers I would be seeing in the tank. Of course, being a heavy tank, he sees 2 tiers higher, seeing tier 9s. But I kept recording all this information, and I came to the shocking resolution, I guess you would use resolution as the word, but what this tank really sees, at least when I played it. I had a total, out of 100 matches, 3 that put me against tier 7s and a little bit of tier 8s. Every other match, almost 100 matches practically, were me battling tier 9s with a little bit of tier 8s, almost exclusively. Now, obviously the tank, I've been going up the German line here, the tech tree shares all these other components with other German vehicles and whatnot, but I still had pretty much almost a stock tank. It's one thing to push a tank to its limit when it's upgraded to be battling off against 2 tiers higher, but the minute you buy the tank, you're automatically going to see nothing but tier 9 matches? That's bogus bullshit. I mean, how can you be helpful? And I don't want to hear about angling of the armor or being extra eyes and all that stuff. I'm here to play the game, obviously, but how can I play the game when I'm so massively over-tiered almost all the time? So not only do I have to worry about tanks that are 2 tiers higher, and God forbid if I was a light tank, that would be even worse, I also have to deal with the players that are exceptionally better in the vehicle. It's one thing to be a stock tank and you're going against someone who has a fully upgraded tank, who has crews that are trained, 3 skill sets already for each crew member. But, I mean, come on, they gotta cut some of these people a break here. I mean, this is ridiculous. There's no entertainment value to be had when you're constantly losing all the time because you're in an inferior tank. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I don't understand what's going on. But I grew up in an era where games were hard, but they were rewarding and they were fun to play because they were hard. There was a challenge, but there's no challenge in me going against a tank that's 2 tiers higher. I mean, tier ones, yeah. Let's see. Tier one sees tiers ones and twos. When you hit tier 3, everything just falls apart. I mean, some tanks can't even handle a tank higher than them by one tier. I had the Panzer IV. That thing, in history, was a wonderful tank. But here in World of Tanks, the gun selection is god awful. I recall a match I had against a KV-3, and I shot the guy 5 times. I even put his engine on fire. The guy didn't carry a fire extinguisher, excuse me. And he pretty much burnt up everything inside of his tank and lost over 600 hit points. The guy still had a massive amount of hit points left. I keep shooting him. I keep doing little damage. Now, I'm not using HE on him. Obviously, I know how that works. But for me to place 6-7 shots into the guy and the guy is still going strong on top of an engine fire, he just turns, sneezes in my direction, I'm completely annihilated. I think perhaps they should be starting to consider different tiers for certain tanks. For example, in history, we have the Hetzer at tier 4 over here, where was known to take out IS tanks. IS-1s, IS-2s, no problem for this tank to go through. Not in World of Tanks, they have it down at tier 4. Of course, why they do that, I don't know. I don't know. Another thing I would like to mention is, what is up with the constant high-end matches where there's tanks from Cold War era fitting into this game? I mean, you look at the maps, you just look at your environment. There are vehicles here that are from World War II. They're trying to hint that this is mostly a World War II game, but then later on, you start getting tanks that are very Cold War. I mean, Pattons? Come on. And you're expected to go against Tiger 1s and Pattons? Pattons are going to steamroll those things. I'm not discrediting Tigers or anything, but come on. Technology catches up very quick, especially when there's a warfare involved. Now, I also would like to talk about reward system on this. Other tank competitor MMOs, War Thunder and Armored Warfare, they got it going generally in the right direction. You had a sign-on bonus, and still have a sign-on bonus for these games. You go in, you just click a button, and you got a bonus. And it's not bad bonuses. World of Tanks does not have this. They refuse to incorporate it, and I just am baffled why. I keep finding myself playing less and less of World of Tanks because I'm just relatively sick of poor match results. No, I'm not saying the whole get good, get better attitude thing going here. It's just, I'm just tired of constantly being everyone's, I hate to say it, personal bitch. And that's how I feel that this game is going. You have to feed the better players. It's a constant. You just don't get an equal match, and usually the chances, the small chances of you actually getting an equal match, the players you're fighting already have everything in their tank maxed out and are seasoned vets. I don't know. I mean, how would it really kill wargaming to throw in bonuses at the on sign-on? Just a sign-on bonus every day? I mean, War Thunder, they give you that little spinner thing. I mean, it's not fantastic, and I've gone all up to day 100 on the damn thing, and there has literally been nothing really of value. Armored Warfare, on the other hand, they know what players want. I mean, you have sign-on bonuses to get experience, money. There's even premium time offered up, and gold. You can stockpile gold. When you come to World of Tanks here, they are misers with gold. They don't want the player to have money. They don't want you to advance with any money here. And I don't know what. At this point, I'm just flabbergasted. I mean, there's certain things that Wargaming can do to make their game better, but they choose not to. They would prefer to blow their money on renting out a Panzer III crushing pianos at live events. I mean, come on. I mean, how much money that is, how much money they could have taken to help development team make their games a little more fair, more enjoyable. Most of the times I play the game, I feel like I'm driving around in a paper tank. I mean,